Yeah. Here we go.
So, welcome back to Shine Online. I'm here with my friend Li Cara. Did I say that right?
Li Cara.
Li
Yes.
Cara. Okay,
yes.
beautiful. Tell me a little bit about what you do.
What I do, that is such an open-ended question, is it?
What brings you joy?
Oh, what brings me joy? Okay, well,
That's a better way.
I suppose what brings me joy. What brings me joy literally is every single day. Like I make a conscious choice every single day to shift my thinking. I call it radical self-awareness. So like to constantly pay attention to what you're thinking, because we have such habits ingrained in us. We're practically conditioned to judge ourselves, to hate ourselves, to bash ourselves, to say mean things. And it's really more of a habit than anything else, because even someone on the enlightening path, I would say even more so on the path of enlightenment, a lot of times we give ourselves a very high standard for how we should be, and so we'll get really down on ourselves if we catch ourselves thinking in the wrong way or saying the wrong words or whatever that is. And I just always think it's really important to embrace that joy, because I find that my belief is that joy is the direct connection to the divine. And that moment where like you get excited and your thoughts go away, that's the divine connection. That's the unconditional love. That's the, like when you look at a baby and you, or a puppy, or you laugh uncontrollably. The moment that your actual worded thoughts, our narrative that judges and tells us what's going on all the time, as soon as that goes away, the joy comes in. And it takes a little bit of practice, and it literally is a moment to moment, like I said, radical self-awareness. But you can bring that feeling of the tingles, that when it fills you, that joy fills you at any moment, just by taking that deep breath and focusing. You get in the practice, you can do it in like 10 seconds, and it changes your whole day. So it bothers some people. They call me a little Pollyanna, but that's okay, because you know what? Bad stuff happens, good stuff happens. And I always try to see, why is this happening? It's all for me. How can I use this? Blah, blah, blah. All those things that we all know, that we all say, So the joy is always that synchronicity of figuring out why that bad thing happened,
I've learned through the years that when bad things happen, it's usually to teach me a lesson. And some people love that about me. Some people hate that about me. They're like, oh, you just, in your love and light mode, you just think everything happens for a reason. And I'm like, do you realize some of the things that I've experienced in my life that I've had to embrace that mentality with? Because I've experienced a lot of loss. I've experienced a lot of darkness, but I've also experienced a lot of light. And if I don't see that it all happens for some sort of reason, then I would drive myself crazy, and I would probably be a lot more sad than I find myself in these days. I'm trying to be like looking at the positive, and like I learned a lesson from those. Something you and I have talked about too is kind of tapping into that frequency of a light, or being I don't know if we use the term light worker, but like the energy of just spirit that kind of guides us to keep going, if you will. And what was it, or if anything, an experience or whatever comes to you like that drove you to stay in that connection and to find this joy?
Well, my awakening was like a lightning bolt when the wave came through in November of 2012. And I was in a marriage that I'd been in for over 20 years. I had children. I worked a job or two in the restaurant industry, close to the happiest place on earth, Orlando, close to Disney World. And I was miserable on the inside. I smiled. I put on my hospitality face. I did the mom thing. I did the wife thing. And on the inside, I hated myself. I was a cutter until I was 42. Like, I really was so miserable. And I just got to the point where I felt like I couldn't do anymore. And I literally like begged for help. I've always been the anti-religion. Like I argue with the Jehovah's Witnesses when they come to my door, and it's logic. I always believe in a higher power, but the religion part out, the dogma, I always had an issue with. And I just had this lightning bolt when I asked for help. And I got these just golden, glittery light. Like it sounds cheesy to say, but through my entire body. And I felt more loved, beloved in that moment than I'd ever felt in my whole life, from any child that I birthed, from a parent, from a lover. I didn't even understand that sort of love existed until that moment. And it may have only been like a split second. It might have been 10 minutes. I don't know. But when I came to, I heard like, you are Li Cara. You're going to start writing. I picked up a pen and wrote down everything they said to me. And they said, this is Unleash Your Light. They said, now open the Bible. I'm like, Bible? I don't have a Bible. I had to go buy a Bible, you know, because at the time it was very much, you're going to figure this out step by step. Because I had no training. Excuse me. Whew.
That's okay.
I got very, whew. Because that God thing, it kind of triggers people.
It does trigger people. And I'm one of those people that it used to trigger me a lot because part of my journey was that when I was 6 years old, I was in a church singing This Little Light of Mine when my mom passed. And as I grew into my teenage years, I had a lot of resentment for that. I still went to church, but a lot of my family didn't, which I thought was interesting. They would drop me off and my brother off at church, and then they would go about their day. But we were sitting there in Sunday school, and we were like, okay, well, we'll learn the lessons. But I remember being a teenager and wanting to explore. I had so many questions that a preacher once was like, you ask too many questions. You just have to have faith. And I didn't like that part about it.
Yeah.
But I started to ask, like, if there was this God energy, how could he have done what he did to me as a child? I lost my mom. I lost my dad. I lost 8 other very influential people in between before I was 10. And I kept seeing all these bad things happen in the world, and I was angry. Yeah. So the God thing was triggering. But as I've evolved, I've seen God as a different source, a different energy. Right. The Bible isn't this like the only word. And I've noticed as I've experienced other forms of spirituality and religion that the deeper message is following your inner guidance and the connection you have with whatever the source is. And again, it goes back to that. I believe everything happens for a reason. So whatever the source is, whether you call it God or this, like, if you visualize it as this like sky daddy in the sky or this being that like drives you, it's still trying to speak to us no matter how a person sees it. And I found that beautiful.
Yes, 100%. I always say it does not matter what you call it. Call it Fred if you want. The universe is always trying to talk to us, and that universal energy is what in the Christian religion they refer to as God or the Holy Spirit or however they see it. But I was able to take an abstract concept and understand it more using the bridge of Christianity to get to that abstract concept of just understanding that energy is me, that I am connected to everything, that we are one, that the oneness is the unconditional love and the piece of divine that we all share, the energy that animates every living thing, you know, is a piece of divine. And so it was this bridge. And so I, for the last 10 years or so, a little over 10 years, have been doing live podcasts up to 5 or 6 a week sometimes for several years on Facebook, and called Unleash Your Light. And it's just simple things that we can do in our own life to connect with that divine and embrace it within us. Because every time we speak to ourselves, we are speaking to the divine within us. Would you say the things that you say to yourself to divine? You know, would you look at the way that you live your life if you were looking at it through the divine eyes? And so this idea of unleashing that divine within us is embracing that unconditional love for ourselves, believing that we are beloved, understanding the bad things that we've done and forgiving, the bad things that other people have done and forgiving, and being able to take that and shift it into a daily practice of unconditional love, where we're able to look at even those who have committed heinous crimes and see that piece of divine within them. Somebody doesn't have to behave in a godly way for me to know that there's a piece of divine in them. And that's the shift that we can make as if you call yourself a light worker. I find, and this is no shade, everybody has to do what they have to do, but I do find that a lot of light workers insulate themselves from the world rather than pushing their light outwards to bust through it, because that's literally, I feel, part of our mission here is to shove through all that stuff and shine despite.
I agree. It's been interesting because that term, I do feel like it kind of got hijacked, because a lot of times people will ask me what my religion is, and I'm like, I follow the light, like love, light. I know that sounds very hippy dippy, but like the light is what guides me. And to me, that was a term that has worked a little bit more than God, because I did have like, maybe it's a daddy issue, I don't know. But it was just this like concept that really changed it for me. And I've had my Christianity journey, I've had a spirituality journey, and I'm somewhere in between. And I really love being able to connect with people that have a variety of different religions or perspectives, and whatever it is that drives them. Like I said, it does seem like it's the love. It's the love that everyone comes back to. So you have touched a little bit about your book, and we have a version of your book here, but you're working on some new writings and some new content that people will be able to find soon.
I definitely am.
Okay.
So my website, unleashyourlight.org, has been up since 2013. Right after my awakening, I put together the website, and I was just printing them up and handing them out to anybody who wanted them, the book. I didn't, self-publishing wasn't really much of a thing back then. It cost a lot of money. And I was just doing this because the universe said, you have to. I'm like, I am a bartender at a nudist resort. I do not know what I'm doing. We don't care. Just do what we say. Just listen. And after I finished writing everything, they said, now do the steps. So I had to go through all of these steps to do all of these, things, you're not alone, and to forgive yourself and to learn to love yourself. But so I've had this website for a very long time, adding to it. It probably has, 50, 60 pages on it, but I'm making a brand new one that is very simple and easy to navigate. It doesn't have a million, tangents to go off on. It's a little bit like my brain with a million tangents. But by the time this comes out, 2/22, it will be all ready to go. So unleashyourlight.org. You'll be able to get links to, I have an entire video series about Unleash Your Light. You can go through all the steps. I have an entire video series on navigating your awakening from self-doubt to self-love. I have all kinds of links to all kinds of stuff on there, but now it's easy to find.
That's beautiful. I always like to tell people, you're not crazy, you're waking up. And it sounds like you have a lot of content to really help people stay in that mode. Before we hop off, I'd like to ask, do you have any general tips that we can offer somebody that is awakening to their creative path, whatever it is they're passionate about? We have a lot of artists, creators, musicians, authors, but then we have a lot of people that they want to step into that passion, that connection to spirit, but they do think they're crazy and they are scared.
Yes.
What's your tip of advice for the day? And then they can go find you at your website.
Yes. The biggest thing is to not doubt your creative vision. When you can take judgment out of it and questioning out of it and create art for art's sake, you're making art for you. You're expressing divine onto whatever medium it is, whether it's film, whether it's art, paint. And so by not doubting what comes out of you as it comes out, you allow the creative process to happen. And maybe you go back later and you tweak and you edit with your editor's eye. But I almost feel like there needs to be a primal connection that you just allow to flow.
I love that. Well, can you give everybody where they can find you again?
Unleashyourlight.org. Also, I have a Facebook page and a Facebook group that's been there, like I said, a good almost 10 years now. So I'm sure you can find me. And I think I'm the only Li Cara on Facebook. So you can also type in Li Cara.
How we spell it?
And it'll pop Licara.
Okay.
And it'll pop right up, and I got plenty of room for new friends. So.
And is the Facebook group Unleash Your Light as well?
It is, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm really grateful that you hopped in here with me today. We got to introduce you to our audience here at Bring Me to Life Network, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you.
Yay!
So, yeah. All right, everybody, stay tuned for more.